Hello, brothers and sisters. My name is Leonard Clark. I'm broadcasting live from Phoenix, Arizona via YouTube. It is July 9th of the year 2015. Brothers and sisters, I just wanted to first of all thank you. I've seen you from the barricades. I've seen you out at the government functions as fellow progressives striving for love and humanity in our state of Arizona. And what you do is critical. There may be only one of you, a couple of you, a handful, whatever, but each one of you, I firmly believe, represents thousands who could not be there, either because they have to make it in this economy in America, to pay rent, to pay medical bills, all these other things with the jobs that they have to do. So they are fellow citizens and fellow human beings who cannot be here or are afraid or intimidated to protest, really need you. I'm sure most of you know that, but I had to tell you that and say that to you again and thank you again, because what you do is critical. Now, before I address some other things that are going on in Phoenix, the major theme of what I want to talk about is the fact that I've seen some troubling things growing here within the Phoenix metro and Arizona area. There are some in the press, and some of you, I'm afraid, that have fallen into the old trap, and that is this. Now, let me give you an example. There's some folks in the press saying, why are you going out there and protesting the Confederate flag and those haters and those bigots? Or why are you going to the Donald Trump event this Saturday with Puente, the human rights organization, and the Love Rally, who are holding their protests to support Puente? Why are you doing that? You're just giving them more attention. I mean, don't go out there and protest those bigots. Let them fly their Confederate flags. Let them use the N-word and get away with it. Let them do all of these things, because you're just giving them publicity. They'll go away. Don't you understand? That's the way they've done it for the last 30, 40, 50 years in Arizona. We just stayed silent, and we didn't go out and counter the hate and ignorance with love and humanity. Just stay in your homes. Stay cowering. You're just giving the bigots more attention. Well, brothers and sisters, as ridiculous as that argument sounds, it's now being made by some folks in the press. And again, I'm sorry to you brothers and sisters who are out there making this statement on Facebook, saying, well, if we go out to Trump at the Trump event, we're just giving him publicity when he stands there with the other criminal against humanity, Joe Arpaio. Brothers and sisters, nothing could be farther from the truth. We have been unified. Our brothers and sisters of color, Latinos, and African American descent, people who have traditionally been bullied, intimidated, have been there for years, okay? And doing this, protesting. And that is how things change. Not with violent protests, but with non-violent protests. When they're there with their hate and ignorance, we're out there to meet them. And while I'm at it, brothers and sisters, I know that all of us have egos. I know I do. And I know that these egos can sometimes threaten the very good that we're doing. We're here, in my opinion, in Arizona and around the country and the world, trying to extend love and humanity for our fellow human beings and our Mother Earth. But guess what? The fact of the matter is, our egos can get us into big trouble. Now, I believe people in the press who may not like the anarchists are letting their personal animosities with these folks get in the way. And I want to stand here right now and tell you, I salute the socialist. I salute the anarchist, because when you hear me say anarchist, many of you have already stereotyped in your mind that somebody with a bandana who is violent and out there just causing problems. Well, that's a bunch of BS. See, that's a stereotype. I had to find out the hard way during Occupy, when we were wrongfully jailed for petitioning our constitutional rights, and for which the charges were dismissed because it was totally unconstitutional at Margaret T. Hance Park in 2011. Well, when I was thrown into Joe Arpaio's gulag for a night, I was in there with socialists. I was in there with anarchists and Democrats and other progressives and libertarians. But what I found out about anarchists was totally different from the stereotype that I had been taught. I was in the cell with an anarchist who was a pacifist, and right off the bat, that kind of blows the stereotype. 2, he was a vegetarian, and I think a vegan to bat. This was not the anarchist that I'd been taught about. I was taught that they were lurking, mean and cruel people. Instead, the anarchist that I met that day at the jail cell that I was there, and later on in the Occupy, along with libertarian friends and the rest, were human beings. And you see, brothers and sisters, that's what the whole problem is. We're not saying to lose your principles, but we've been placed into these boxes. Boxes where you cannot, after you've been put into these metaphorical boxes, you cannot extend a hand to another human being because we let our animosities grow. Now, I really want to thank the socialist and the Wave of Action movement, those young folks, for being there, because you know what, let's face it, a lot of the older folks may think they're smart for not going, but most of us are tired. We don't want to go. I went and I watched. Now, I would say that when we do protest Confederate flag wavers, some of them are really ignorant. They don't know they're being manipulated by neo-Nazis and KKK and these skinhead groups. Rather than necessarily attacking them, which we weren't doing at the Walmart, by the way, sometimes you can persuade them with love, like at the Love Rally and the Wave of Action movement at the protest in front of the Phoenix Mosque, where the haters were trying to intimidate people who happen to be of the Islamic faith from praying that day. We were able to convince, from what I read, I probably met this person, one of the haters on the other side. He later attended the mosque service and changed his attitude. Now, I understand, I don't want to be naive here and say that we're going to change the hardcore Nazis and the haters and the KKK people. You know, just like Hitler in his last hour had dedicated Nazis around his bunker who still died for a cause that was lost, there are those that will do the same for the hate and ignorance that are trying to spread that in Arizona. So I'm not trying to be naive about that. But what I'm saying is, please get off the backs of our young people, the Wave of Action people, the human rights people. They went out and they stood up against hate and ignorance in a part of the valley where I live that has one of the original, it's called the North Phoenix Tea Party Group. And quite honestly, Southern Poverty Law Center has stated that this is a hate group. Now, for years in this part of the valley, and yes, we're still gerrymandered, right-wing, conservative out here, nobody would come out to these protests and let these folks who denigrated and tried to degrade people who are of Latin descent, nobody would come out and protest that. There was a vacuum. And brothers and sisters, I'm trying to tell some of my friends in the press here and some of you that power doesn't flow into a vacuum. Hate and ignorance will flow into the minds and hearts of our fellow human beings here if they don't see us with our message of love and humanity. I know that sounds corny, but that's the case. If we're not physically there to counter these messages of hate and ignorance, then their message will win. This whole thing about stay home, bury your head in the sand, like I said, I'm guilty of having ego and pride. Let's set aside our pride and egos with some of our brothers and sisters, and that goes for you too, press folks, some of you, my friends in the press. Let's set that aside. It's hurting us. It's hurting us, and the haters, they're trying to make a comeback with the Donald Trump arrival here in Phoenix this Saturday, July 11th, at 1:30 at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, and I will try and post links on there. Puente, the human rights organization, is going to be there. They want us to stay divided. This is the worst time. We are almost at the finish line, I believe, for love and humanity for the state of Arizona. But guess what? The monster, that monster of hate, twin-headed monster of hate and ignorance, these folks that believe in that know that this is their last stand. And they could actually turn things around. And love and humanity might not win in Arizona. So I'm asking you to come out to the protest with my human rights brothers and sisters in the Puente movement. There'll be a couple of us, or anybody from the Love Rally. But come out there with not violent thoughts, but with actual love for your fellow man. It's really hard for these haters to win when we do that. Now, you'll probably see me angry, but I'll also try to keep an open mind and try to bring in these people who have been brainwashed to think that because people have brown skin, black skin, white skin, whatever, that they're less human. Arizona is not about that. So, again, I just want to reiterate my appreciation for the young folks, the human rights folks who came out with Wave of Action to contest the flag-waving hate and ignorance rally at the Walmart in Phoenix just last week. Please, press people, put aside your anger at some of the young anarchists. I know a lot of people that can't stand me, but as much as it hurts me that people hate me because I put out a message, I know that we can't let, and I know that I can't let that get in the way of loving humanity progressing in this state. Sorry, I know it sounds corny again. So please be there. It is going, let me see here, I have it up on my screen. It is going to be, and I will tell you where, it's going to be at the Arizona Biltmore, a Waldorf Astoria Resort at 1:30. I'm going to be there a little early. The address is 2400 East Missouri Avenue, Phoenix, Arizona 85019. On Facebook, you can go to Puente or to the Love Rally or my wall on Facebook. I'm known as Len Clark. And so lately, brothers and sisters, I just want you to know, I've been attacked by other progressives in the Democratic Party because I dare speak in support for Bernie Sanders. So the haters aren't going to win, and we're going to be out there. And this ignorant message of staying away from the Trump event because you'll just give him more publicity. Brothers and sisters, he is going to be there with the cameras. This racist bigot, dangerous sociopath, big blowhard, Donald Trump, is going to have the eyes of the world on Arizona and Phoenix more specifically this Saturday and the nation. If we let the Confederate flag wavers and those bigots come out who support the criminal against humanity, Joe Arpaio, without a counter message of loving humanity, people will see that and people will think that is what Arizona is about. And you say, well, that doesn't bother me. Well, it will in the end, because when more haters and bigots start moving here because they think that's the thing that's going to be running Arizona, then it affects all of our families. So I'm here to tell you, haters and bigots, kiss my arse, and the rest of my brothers and sisters, and this includes myself, set your darn egos aside. Stop being angry at the young anarchists and socialists. They're always the ones there first, usually. And just because you get something accomplished from a human rights perspective from a particular cause that you have, remember, there are other human rights causes, and we need to stick together. So that's the way it goes. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Thank you to the young anarchists and socialists at the Confederate event, and thank you to my brothers in Puente, because you are out there, and you've been out there, and standing up against these people who are violating human rights. And Donald Trump, you need to get some help, man. See you later.